If you've ever had a reaction that didn't quite make sense, like you got upset faster than you really wanted to, you shut down in a moment, you wish you had spoken up, you felt rejected, you understood you shouldn't take it personally, but you did take it personally, and you really couldn't explain why it hit so hard, there's a good chance that wasn't exactly you reacting. And if you don't understand what part of you was reacting, you'll keep repeating the same patterns no matter how much you grow, no matter what happens in your life. Welcome. This is Leading with Spirit, the show for the spiritual guide who knows there's more. More depth, more truth, more realness in the work you're here to do. Whether you're a healer, coach, or intuitive, this podcast helps you reconnect with your gifts, trust your path, and lead from soul, not stress. Hosted by me, Spirit Bird. I'm a master shaman, best-selling author, and founder of Holton Healing Arts. My intention is that each episode brings grounded insight into spiritual growth, energy mastery, and the real-life journey of walking as a spiritual leader. You can find me at Spirit Bird Official. Enjoy the show. Because here's the thing no one tells you about inner child work. Most people either ignore it completely or they get stuck in it. And both of these lead to the same result, actually. You stay reactive, you stay confused, you stay stressed, and in constant work mode, you stay stuck in patterns that don't match the person you're trying to become or the life you're trying to live. Today, I'm going to show you 3 ways to work with your inner child that actually change your behavior in real life. So it's not just about going and reconnecting and thinking, oh, that was nice, but actually doing this work so you can change what's happening in your life and how you feel. And so there are 2 ways that you can work with that. And then the third one is one that most people get completely wrong. And it's the reason that a lot of people feel like they're doing the work, but nothing's actually changing. So I want to talk about that today. But first, let's talk about what working with your inner child even means. Before we get into the 3 ways to do this, we need to make sure we're talking about the same thing, because inner child work can sound vague or emotional, or like you're going to have to go digging through your past all the time. That's not what we're doing here. What we're doing here, working with your inner child, simply means you're learning how to recognize when a younger part of you is reacting and choosing how to respond instead of automatically having that reaction. That's it. It's not about becoming the younger version of you again. It's not about staying in the past. And it's not about letting your emotions run your life. It's about understanding that not every reaction you have is coming from your present day awareness. Some reactions come from a part of you that learned really quickly, felt really deeply, or didn't have the full picture yet. You were a child. You did not have the full picture of what life was yet. So it made meaning out of situations in a way that helped you at the time, but doesn't fully match your life now and what you are now and how you're living and who you want to be. And what this actually looks like in practice is much simpler than people think. If you were to do inner child work with me, we would start by digging through just something happening in your life right now. So not your entire past. We wouldn't be looking for something that's been missing for a long time. We wouldn't be looking for, trying to dig up something that has been settled. We would start with something happening in your life right now that doesn't feel good. That's not going the way you want it to go. A moment where you felt triggered, shut down, overwhelmed, reactive, or just not like yourself. And instead of trying to fix it or analyze it, we would slow it all down. We'd look at, what did you feel in your body? What did your mind immediately start saying? What did it make that moment mean about you or about someone else? And then we'd follow that thread, not to get stuck in the story or dig something up just for the sake of digging it up, but to find the part of you that's reacting, the part that believes something very specific in that moment. And once we find that, we bring your awareness back online. So instead of reaction running automatically, you can actually see it. The one that is no longer inside of it. And then that's where the shift actually takes effect in your real life, because now that part of you that you didn't see at all isn't running the show. So most of the time the reaction isn't coming from where you think it's coming. So this is the first way to work with your inner child. So I'll just keep going on the example. We'll just dive in a little deeper. Most people, again, think their reactions are coming from what's happening right now, like what that person is doing to them, right? But that's not actually true. What's happening right now is just the trigger. It's like, it's the thing that pressed a button inside you. And the button is basically a preloaded reaction in your system, right? A preloaded reaction in your mind or body. It's not just a thought, it's a full package response that's already wired together. So when it gets pressed, a few things happen all at once. Your body reacts, your chest tightens, your stomach drops, you feel sick, your throat closes. Your emotions show up, anxiety, irritation, shame, urgency, right? And then your mind probably jumps in and tries to explain it, translate it in some way. Overthinking, second guessing, trying to figure out what's wrong. All of that happens automatically in seconds. You're not building the reaction in real time. You're activating something that's already built. That's the button. It's the stored pattern of feeling, body sensation, and thought all linked together. So when it gets pressed, the whole thing runs at once. It's like hitting play on a pre-recorded response. Or hitting the start button on a bomb is what it might actually feel like in your life. But the reaction isn't coming from what's happening right now. It's coming from something older. And here's how you know. It's fast, it's intense, and it feels familiar, right? So if you're noticing all three of those things, it's probably your sign, like you've been here before. I remember noticing this really clearly in my own life. There were times where I would share something that felt true for me and then immediately feel that like tightening, or immediately feel that like my gut drops after I shared something that was like true but vulnerable. And that internal feeling like made my body felt like it needed to pull back. Like I said too much, like I was probably about to be misunderstood. And logically, nothing bad happened, but my body didn't care about the logic because the reaction didn't start in that moment. It started way earlier, right? I grew up in environments where thinking differently, being unconventional was not always received well. And I also grew up communicating in a different style than the average person. So I experienced people around me often looking at me like I was crazy, or just dismiss me, or not get it, right? At some point, my whole system, my body, my mind, my feelings, all learned it's safer to hold this in. That became the pattern. So later in life, even when I was in completely different environments, my body was still reacting like it wasn't safe to share. That's how these patterns work. They don't update automatically. So you end up reacting to the past in the present. And most people never question it. They assume this is just who I am. I'm just sensitive, or I'm just bad at this, or this is just how I work. But it's not who you are, and you're not stuck in it. So go ahead and get yourself out of that lie that you're telling yourself, if that's what you're telling yourself right now. It's not who you are. It's what you learned, and it's what you accepted or had to accept in the circumstances that you grew up in. And once you see that, something starts to shift, because now you can go back. Again, not to relive it, but to stop letting it run your life. And when I finally made the decision to stop filtering myself in that way, even without knowing how it would land with people, or, what the backlash might be, something really surprising happened. And I saw this really clearly in my own life in a different way than I had experienced before. I kept holding back in conversations. I kept noticing myself, especially like softening myself, like not in a dramatic way, not where I was like, oh, I need to say something, but I don't say anything. It would be small moments where I started to say something and then I would edit it. Like I'd soften it, I'd add filler words, or I'd be like, well, it's just my opinion, or, not that I'm mad at you, like all these little qualifiers that took away from my truth, toned it down. I'd say something nice at the beginning or the end of my statement. I was trying to make it more palatable. And maybe sometimes I just wouldn't say anything at all. And if you asked me why, I wouldn't have had a clear answer then in the moment. Or I would have, brushed it off as a couple excuses, blame the other people. Well, the people don't get me, or, people are not smart or are mean or whatever, your version of this might be. And then one day I caught it in real time. It was like that moment right before I spoke. I noticed I said what I wanted to in my head first. Like I narrated my thought before I was going to say it. And then I noticed my body tighten a little. My heart start racing. I haven't said anything, just thought what I actually wanted to say. And I caught my thought again. And I had this second like inner dialogue or narration where I heard myself think, yeah, but you might be wrong. Or like, what if you don't have all the info? I don't want them to think badly of me, or I don't want them to think I'm mad at them. And instead of just like pushing through and doing what I normally would do, which is edit and soften, I paused and paid attention because nothing in that moment was actually unsafe. There was no conflict. There was no rush for me to respond. There was no pressure. There was really no reason to hold back. But my body was acting like there was, and my mind was following my body, giving it reasons. So once my body was triggered, my mind hopped in with all of the worst case scenarios. They might act nice to your face and then spread a bunch of gossip. Or they might think you're blaming them and snap at me. And then I'd be in a big debate, and it's probably better to just not say anything at all, right? That's when I realized, oh, this is not about this conversation at all. This is a pattern. So instead of trying to fix the conversation, instead of trying to like find the right words to say, I made a very different decision. I'm going to say the thing anyway. I'm going to check myself because I'm going to make sure I don't say it aggressively or to prove a point or to try to impact that person to see my side. Just honestly, cleanly, no softening, no over nicing it. I'm not going to take any more responsibility than my fair share. And what happened surprised me because it's not just that nothing bad happened, it's that the moment passed almost instantly. That tension, that rapid heartbeat that felt so real seconds ago disappeared the second I moved differently. And that's when it clicked for me. The reaction wasn't there because the situation was dangerous. The reaction was there because a button got pressed. And the only way to change it is to stop obeying that button. Yeah, let's take it deeper. I want to walk you through what working with the inner child looks like in real time, because I just explained how working with the trigger looks like, but let's talk about what working with your inner child looks like. Basically, like how to rewire those buttons. Because this isn't just a concept, this is something you can actually experience. So let's say you notice this pattern. Like every time you're in a meeting, you want to say something. You have a thought, an idea, something valuable to add, something exciting, and then you notice your throat kind of closes up. You hesitate, you overthink, you either don't say it at all or you do, and you're so nervous that when you finally do speak, you just sound like an idiot and you're so embarrassed, right? And you're like, why do I keep doing that? Inner child work is what helps you understand why. And again, rewire that button so you're not having that automatic response. So what this might look like is you sit down with a practitioner. Like I do this inside my healing sessions. I do this inside my clarity intensives. I mean, we look at your whole situation, figure out what's going on, what you actually need to do, how to get through it, all of that stuff. We usually do some healing and energy work inside of it too. And it can look like this. So you sit down with a practitioner or to do a meditation or a sound journey or some shamanic journey. And instead of trying to force yourself to just speak up next time, you slow down. You bring awareness to that moment. Maybe even think about that time when you were at, the office discussion and you got really triggered and didn't say anything at all or stumbled over your words. And think about that exact moment where your throat closes and you start to notice, what does that actually feel like in my body? What emotion's in there? What thought shows up immediately? And then you follow it, not with your mind trying to figure it out, but letting your system show you, letting the memory unfold before you. And what often happens is something you wouldn't expect. Your mind might think it's random, but your body will take you somewhere very specific. And again, you can do this work in, meditations and intuitive work, but you can also hire somebody to just take you there. Practitioners are very skilled at this. So they're not always skilled at how to work with it afterwards, but most practitioners are pretty skilled at how to get you there. So you might find yourself back in that memory, a moment where you were younger, you were excited about something, you had a new discovery you wanted to share, and you were really excited and proud of it. And then the person you shared it with, maybe it was your dad or a teacher, someone with authority, they shut it down. They were in a bad mood, they dismissed it, they corrected you harshly. They made you feel small in that moment where you were really open and excited. And in that moment, your system, right, your feelings, your body, your mind made a decision. And it might not have been conscious, but it was clear. It's not safe to share things like this. Or this feeling leads to being shut down. Or I need to hold this in. Or I'll never do this again. And now, years later, you're in a meeting. Different people, different situation. But your body doesn't know that. It just recognizes the feeling. The same moment of excitement. The same urge to share. And it shuts down before you even get there. And here's the part that most people anyway, don't realize. It doesn't just affect you in meetings. It can go deeper than that. You might start shutting down your own excitement, like the excitement itself before you even speak, right? Because you had an idea, you felt excited by it, and then as soon as you shared it, you got shut down, and now you feel horrible. And so your inner child actually thinks that when you get excited, it means you're going to feel even worse. So you're not just shutting down your idea or speaking or your voice, you're shutting down the feeling of being excited in the first place, because that child remembers that that's what caused it, not just the idea, the feeling of joy and happiness. And so your body linked those two feelings together. So you can see how this isn't random. It's actually very precise. And again, this is what you'll do in inner child work. You're going to go back to that moment, not to relive it, but to change a relationship to it and recognize that younger part of you and what they went through. Console them, help them feel better, be seen, be heard. Let them get the feeling they didn't get the first time. That might be comfort. It might be a different perspective on the whole situation. You might even walk through the memory differently, where they're supported instead of shut down, like actually changing the result that happened in their memory. But the most important part is this. You let your body then experience that moment in a new way. You let yourself feel the different result, because the reaction isn't just in your mind, right? It's in your body. So when you feel it differently or process it differently or respond differently and let yourself experience a different reaction from that response, that button we talked about earlier starts to change. And eventually, it's not there anymore with practice. You'll usually see a pretty big difference right away, but you also have to be consistent, right? Or you'll just rewire it back to the old way. So you have to, actually integrate it into your life, be consistent with it. So the next time you're in that meeting and the thought comes up and your throat doesn't close, you get to experience that rewiring in real life, right? And it's not because you forced yourself to speak. It's because there's nothing there stopping you anymore. Okay, one more money, and then we're gonna one more example. It's about money, and then we're gonna go to the second way to work with your inner child. So we're talking money here. Let's say you start making progress. You're earning more, things are finally stabilizing in your life, and then something happens and you overspend, or you avoid looking at your bank accounts, right? Or money goes out as fast as it comes in, and you're like, why do I keep doing this? And instead of trying to fix your behavior or constantly try to make more money, right? Or make sure you spend no money, which isn't really, neither of those are practical ways to live. You slow the reaction down. You look at this moment in real time. Maybe you see your account go up, and instead of feeling instead of feeling relaxed, like your body tightens. So like you just get a big sum of money and you notice you're not excited, you're freaking out inside. Or you think about having more money and something about it just doesn't feel safe. You get that like sudden nervous feeling. So you follow that. And what often comes up is this: at some point, money felt stressful. Maybe there wasn't enough. Maybe people thought about it in your life. Maybe when the money came, it also came with pressure or control. So your system learned money creates stress, or it's not safe to relax with money. And now, even as an adult, when you start to have it, your system kind of pushes it away through spending, through avoiding, through disconnecting. And it's not because you're bad with money, but because part of you doesn't feel safe holding it. This is where inner child work shifts it. You go back to that pattern, you see what you learned, and you start experiencing money different in your body. So now you don't have to force discipline. You don't have to keep up this lie you've been telling yourself that you're bad at money, because there's actually nothing in you trying to push it away anymore. So now here's the part most people don't expect. Even after you see the pattern, even after you start changing it, sometimes something can still feel off, because if you've just like reworked the situation, just like gone back to the memory and like worked this from the space of the mind, you can understand your reaction and why it's happening, but you might still have the same reaction because it needs to go further than the mind, right? But you've only handled a part of it. And again, this is where a lot of people stop, especially when, like, if you're doing, not to say it's bad or anything, but if you're doing, see, look at, I just softened that. I was about to say, if you're doing journaling work, you might miss this next part. And did you hear how I softened it by saying, not that journaling work is bad? I just want to say it cleanly. You can miss it when you're doing journaling work. So this is where a lot of people stop, which brings us to the second way to work with your inner child. You're not just healing pain, you're missing energy, like your energy. Most people think inner child work is, again, about like understanding why and trying to change those triggers. It's like psychological only, but it's, for it to be effective, it needs to go deeper. So your inner child isn't just where your wounds are. Your inner child is where parts of your energy, your how else would I say it? Like your presence, they're your soul. It's part of your soul, your spirit that is disconnected from you. When something's overwhelming, a part of you doesn't just get over it. It pulls back or shuts down or leaves in the moment. That time when you were all excited and you wanted to share your discovery with your teacher, and your teacher told you to sit down and was mean to you, and then you felt horrible and the class laughed at you, right? Like in that moment, part of your energy or your soul actually like leaves your body. So as an adult, this is what it can feel like. You're doing everything you're supposed to do, in life, doing the right thing, raising your family, you got the nice house, doing all the things, right? Got a good job, you're grateful, you give back, but something still feels off. It's not like dramatic, right? It's just something just feels off, not fully there. Like you're going through life, but you're not fully in it. This shows up with like the way a mass number of people have depression or anxiety. It's just like they can see things should be fine, but it doesn't feel fine. And it doesn't just affect how you feel, it also affects your actual energy day to day, like your physical energy. You feel more tired than you should. Simple things feel heavier than they need to. You procrastinate, not because you're lazy, but because something in you doesn't feel fully there or fully available. And even when you rest, you don't feel recharged. And Most people try to fix that by doing more structure, more discipline, more effort. I'll get a better planner. I'll, organize myself more, whatever that might be. But that's not what's missing. What's missing is you. By the way, if you are in that state of overwhelm and you haven't tried the emotional reset, you should grab that. Super economical, really quick. It's not a lot of work, and it's going to help you like drop right back into yourself, drop the emotional load, drop the emotional pressure, and reconnect to yourself from day one in just a couple of short practices. But anyway, what was missing again wasn't just this intellectual connection and understanding of what happened to you at that time. What's missing is part of your energy, part of your being. And so being overwhelmed, trying to connect, thinking that it's all about your structure or your time or your planning or your schedule or your money is going to take you down a tangent. It's going to take you away from what would actually help you, because what's missing is you. Because part of you learn it's not safe to be this open. It's not safe to feel this much. It's not safe to be visible. So that part of you pulled back in the moment of trauma, big trauma or little trauma, right? Like, let's not pretend, just to be clear, like tiny things are just as impactful as major trauma. And here's the thing, that they show up in really simple ways. Like the way this pattern shows up in your life is like when you normally would feel inspired to do something, but you're not inspired to do it anymore, or things you're naturally drawn to, you kind of just start to ignore them. And it's like you can feel that you do care, but you can't feel that you care. And it's not because those things don't feel important enough. It's just, it feels disconnected. And you just feel disconnected or just not like yourself. So this is where working with your inner child, the second way of working with your inner child, is important. Doing this work allows you to not just remember what happened and rewrite the button and how things are wired, but also get back that part of your energy or that part of your soul that left in those moments. And it never works by forcing it. It's simply by allowing yourself to feel, to enjoy, to be present, to follow what's real when you're reconnecting with that part of you without shutting it down. And then bringing that back into your ordinary life. And when that happens, you don't just like feel better, you feel more here, more connected, more grounded, more like yourself. You're motivated again, your energy comes back. You feel alive. You actually feel happy. That's you coming back online. So that's the second way to work with your inner child. So this is also where a lot of people get off track, moving into the third one, because if you remember at the beginning, I mentioned, most people either don't work with their inner child at all. They dismiss it, say it's meaningless or woo-woo or whatever, or they get stuck in it. So I want to talk about how being stuck in your inner child might look. Because once you start feeling more connected, it's easy to think, I should just follow whatever I feel, right? I want to keep this feeling alive forever. And that sounds right, but it's not entirely true, because not every feeling is guidance, right? Some of those reactions are still coming from the same patterns we talked about earlier. So now you're in a new kind of confusion potentially. You've done part one of inner child work, you reconnected, you rewired, you found your trigger. You did part two, you found those last parts, you brought those in, you felt, you did all the things. And now you're noticing that there's something doesn't quite feel right, or you're really frustrated now because you had this beautiful moment with your inner child, but now you're back in your day-to-day life and you're still hitting confrontation and conflict, or it seems like life takes that moment away from you right away. So it feels confusing, right? And if you don't understand the next piece, you can actually start organizing your life around your reactions instead of your truth. And I see this all the time when people don't go deep enough or work with practitioners that don't know what they're doing, where they connect you to your inner child, but now you're stuck here with it and your reactions are running the show. So this is where we need to talk about the third way to work with your inner child. And this is often the one that changes everything. Your inner child should not be running your life. This is the part most people get wrong. Your inner child is not supposed to lead. Your inner child reacts. Your adult self decides. And if you mix those roles up, you'll probably become unstable. Now, we do want to pay attention to our inner child, listen to them, recognize them, let ourselves have fun and joy and be ourselves again. But your inner child also reacts. Your inner child is also immature. Your inner child can also say, like, oh, I don't feel like doing this, or like, oh, this is too much, right? Or I just want to avoid this, or I need more attention. It matters, but it's not the final decision, and it's not always the real truth. So your adult self leads. Let's make this really simple. You have something you need to do, work, a task, something you've been putting off for a while, and you sit down to do it, and immediately you don't want to do it. Your body feels heavy. Your mind starts drifting. You're thinking about a million different things. You maybe get a snack. You suddenly feel tired. And then thoughts start to come in, I'll do it later, or I'm not in the right mood. I can't do this work when I'm in the wrong mood. I need to get in the right mood first, or I just need a break. That could be your inner child avoiding discomfort, right? Looking for something easier. Like, of course they would. Of course they would be looking for something easier. And if you follow that, you scroll, you snack, you do anything but the thing, where is that getting you? Right? So this is just an example of where you want to listen to your inner child, mend the old parts, bring those parts back to you, but that doesn't mean following and obeying everything your inner child says. Another way this could show up, this one's a little bit more subtle, but there was a time I remember noticing like a part of me just like wanted attention. It just was feeling like I kept getting overlooked and not really getting the attention that I wanted or deserved. So I tracked down and connected to that part of me, my inner child, that was triggering that situation, and I gave it attention, right? I slowed down, I checked in, I let myself feel, I was saying nice things to my little one, and at first it felt right, but then I noticed something. It's like for her, it was starting to feel like it was never enough. Like no matter how much attention I gave her, she still wanted a little more. So I got curious. I was like, okay, well, like what is enough? Do you know? Do you know how to tell that? And basically she's like, well, I'll know when it feels like it. And that's when it clicked. Like, okay, that would be something that a young child might be true for a young child, but that's not how I need to live, right? That part of me wasn't actually looking for resolution. It was just asking for more all the time. And if I kept following that, I would never move forward. I would probably ruin most of my relationships. I would feel unsatisfied all the time because it would always be like, not yet, stay here longer, a little bit more. Let's try this, right? Like just never being fully satisfied and always feeling like I'm being overlooked and missing even when I'm getting praise and love and adoration. So that's the trap. Inner child work is not about giving that part of you everything that it wants, because it doesn't have a clear endpoint and it doesn't have a clear viewpoint all the time. Instead, it's about listening, understanding, and letting your adult self lead. So instead of, I need to stay here until it feels completely resolved, it becomes, I hear you, and we're going to move forward now. That's the key. Same thing with work, same thing with hard conversations, same thing with anything uncomfortable. You might feel your trigger / your inner child saying, avoid this, don't do this. If it's hard, it must not be meant to be. That's one of my favorite ones that I can't stand. Oh, if it must not be meant to be if it's hard, right? That's like an inner child, controlling you from a wound, right? So Your adult self has to say, I hear you. I'm not ignoring you. I'm recognizing that, yeah, man, there's a part of me that doesn't want to do this right now. But also, we know it's the right thing to do, and we're going to do this anyway. And we're not going to force or push through it. We're going to do it in a grounded way, right? So it's different. Every time you do that, you build trust with yourself because now you're not being controlled by your reactions. You're in relationship with them. And that's a really big difference in your life. So, most people think inner child work is about healing the past. But again, it's actually about changing how you are in the present. It's about changing your daily life and your daily interactions. When you see the pattern, reconnect with your energy and let your adult self lead after you've taken a moment to see what's actually happening. When you do that, you stop reacting, you start choosing, you stop waiting for the world to feel safe or perfect or for other people to be safe or perfect, right? And start becoming someone who can move even when things aren't perfect. And that's when everything changes because now your life isn't being shaped by old patterns and you're not feeling trapped by the scenario you're in. You're not being trapped by the people around you or how much money you have or the political system that's occurring. It's being shaped by awareness. And if you're feeling stuck, there's a good chance it's not because you don't know what to do. It's because part of you learned something a long time ago and it's still trying to protect you. The moment you see that clearly, you don't lose yourself, you don't lose control, you actually get back to yourself. And that's the beauty of inner child work. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me today. If you enjoyed the show, would you subscribe and leave us a review? Let us know you did at Spirit Bird Official. We love to support our listeners. And if you enjoyed the show, please share it with someone else who would also enjoy it. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.